Good morning and welcome to another one of Drew's book reviews. So today's book review, we're going to be reviewing Taylor Cole's Live Like a God. So first, I want to thank you, Taylor, for sending me a copy of your book. I really, really appreciate it. This is the second book of yours that you sent me now, and I just really appreciate it, and want to thank you for that. And you have definitely garnered another fan here with your books, and I look forward to your next book that you'll be bringing out whenever that is. So be sure to let me know as soon as your next book is coming out. So, with regard to Live Like a God, essentially the whole concept here is that you could be shrunk down and inserted into another world where you effectively are a god and worship as a god by the inhabitants of these worlds. So you could do whatever you want. You become their god. And this is what Josh Ridley, our main character, has done. He's a guy that he really doesn't feel like there's much going for him in his life. He's not happy. He's not content with the way things are. He desperately needs something to change in his life. He needs to find some way to reinvigorate his sense of life and what it's all about so that he could be happy with life again. And so he's referred to this place that has the ability to shrink him down and insert him into a world where he can live like a god. So the world he gets sent to is this place called Bedaloom. Now the idea behind it is we have these villages, and there's this one reigning supreme, all-powerful god, which is somebody else who had come to live like a god and chose to stay there, and he is ruling the people of Bedaloom with tyranny and oppression. And Josh Ridley here, he comes and is heralded as a god that has come to save them. And of course, throughout that, he has to battle all kinds of what the people call demons, which are really just the insects. Now, because you've been shrunk down to such a small level, these insects appear to be like these giant insects, and only a god could fight them off. So we've got giant spiders and giant ants and giant beetles and giant mosquitoes and giant praying mantises that he now has to fight for not only his survival, but the survival of the people he slowly comes to care for within this book. But of course, he can't stay forever. He has to leave after a while as part of the requirement, and it's how the whole system works. He has to leave after a while, but soon we find Josh, who has become so attached to these people that once he's back in the real world again, he has to find a way to get there. Now, he doesn't exactly come up with a way to get back to Bedaloom in the most ethical way, but I have to say that I really like how Taylor wrote his character. I like how he found a way, in a believable way, that we could expect of this character, and how he set up his motivations and his purpose for returning. In addition to that, I think I found it to be very believable the way Josh returned and how he accomplished that. And his motivations behind his actions were very believable, well written. I really, really enjoyed that about this story. And I really, really enjoyed this book overall. What I would say as far as the writing style goes, I would say it's like, I don't know how many have watched Micro or read the book Micro by Michael Crichton, where characters are also shrunk down and end up having to battle, giant insects, relatively speaking. So that concept is within this book, but so I'd say it's a cross between Michael Crichton's Micro and Ancient Roman Gladiator, combined with battle between the Roman gods, and of course we have demigods, because there's some characters within this book that are kind of half god, half human, so to speak, whereas we the humans are the gods in this case when we go down to this world that's been created. And just a fun, fast-paced, energetic, awesome read. I really enjoyed the book overall, and I think it's a really great book and rather enjoyable. Um, I do have a couple criticisms, however. One of which is the flow of time seems to be altered when Josh is inserted into this world that's been created. Now, these worlds are basically these giant terrariums with miniaturized versions of the world in which they are inhabiting, in which they are going to. So these worlds are basically these shrunken miniature worlds as well. So the idea is he's inserted into a terrarium that has, relatively speaking, more area than the landmass of Delaware, is how it's referred to in the book. But the flow of time seems to be altered. So while he's there for the 3 days in the real world, something like 39 days has passed in this world of Bedaloom that he's been inserted into. But the world of Bedaloom is really just a self-contained environment within our own world, so I don't really get how this timeline or the flow of time has been rapidly advanced or sped up. I don't see how shrinking somebody down would change the relative perception of the flow of time, which is pretty constant throughout. It is constant throughout our world, so that didn't really make sense to me as far as that goes. I think it certainly would have worked better if there was no change in the flow of time at all. And it's just, if he was going to be there for the weekend, he was initially there for 3 days and left it at that. The one other criticism that I have is the concept of Josh's overall relative mass changing dramatically with his time being shrunk down to insect size. The reason I say this is because it's referenced within this book that when he shrunk down, he manages to maintain his relative normal size strength, which gives him incredible power and strength within this new world, but also his relative mass, which means that he effectively weighs about 2 tons. That's what it references within this book. Now, what doesn't make sense to me about that is that if you weigh that much suddenly, there's no way your body would be able to function effectively. Even if with that kind of massive relative change in your weight. And it just doesn't make sense. How could you move? How could you breathe? How could any of your organs and your heart and all that, how could that function with that sudden relative change in mass? People that have weighed that much in the modern world can't move at normal size, let alone having that much weight suddenly foisted onto them, relatively speaking. And that kind of idea also translates to when he has a baby with one of the characters in the book, in which this baby apparently, despite no obvious or indicated change in Josh's genetic code, this baby seems to have inherited that kind of disproportionate mass throughout its growth and time of the room, or at least that's what's suggested. So those kind of things didn't really make sense to me. I'm not really sure how that was supposed to effectively work, only that that was said happened, but it didn't make sense how that worked to me. So I mean, those are the kind of things that I would change or my little critiques on it. But other than that, just a fantastic book. I really, really enjoyed it, and I think that it is well worth the read, and definitely pick it up and read it. Get onto Amazon and buy a copy of this book if you haven't already. I really enjoyed it, and I think it was a great read. And of course, as always, stay tuned because the next up will be Daniel Abraham's The Spider's War. So this is going to be a good one. I've read all the other books in the Dagger and the Path series so far, so I'm really looking forward to getting on to The Spider's War. As always, thank you for watching. Links to all my social media feeds will be in the description below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have yourself a fantastic day. Thank you for watching.